We expect global conflicts to announce themselves with troop movements and artillery fire. But the third global conflict of the modern era isn't starting with a kinetic strike. It is already actively being fought inside civilian bank accounts, corporate real estate deals, and local voting booths. The nations driving this conflict, China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, collectively known as the CRINK axis, share a specific realization. They know that a traditional, head-on military confrontation with Western powers would guarantee their own destruction. So they adopted. The absence of mushroom clouds and deployed infantry is an illusion. The enemy has simply moved the battlefield, opting for a socio-economic and psychological siege designed to defeat the West without firing a single shot. This strategy is the Minimization Plan, a highly coordinated effort to bypass Western military dominance by engineering internal sabotage. Instead of bombing military bases, the strategy targets the structural integrity of Western legislative bodies, media ecosystems, and financial institutions. The target of this plan is a condition called strategic exhaustion, a methodical, relentless draining of American and allied resources, economic stability, and political unity. They are bleeding the system dry for one specific geopolitical moment. They are ensuring that when China launches its invasion of Taiwan, the West will be too paralyzed, politically divided, and financially broken to mount an intervention. To understand the mechanics of this siege, look at the American front. In the framework of abstract warfare, Donald Trump functions as an ideological traitor, a political dirty bomb engineered to shatter the democratic immune system from within. The cultivation of this asset traces back to a 1987 trip to Moscow, managed by the KGB. By the 1990s, when Western banks blacklisted his real estate empire due to serial bankruptcies, Russian oligarch capital filled the void, creating a profound financial dependency on foreign wealth before he entered the Oval Office. Once in power, his operational function became clear. He systematically attacked the post-World War II alliance architecture. By treating NATO like a protection racket, he alienated the security partners the U.S. relies on to project global power. At the same time, his persistent praise for authoritarian strongmen, combined with relentless attacks on democratic norms like a free press and independent courts, provides absolute narrative validation to adversarial propaganda. By proving to the world that democratic leadership can be corrupt, transactional, and unreliable, this presidency perfectly executes the Minimization Plan. It manufactures the exact ideological decay our adversaries require to weaken the republic. Halfway across the world, allied nations are facing a different vector of attack. This is surgical capitalism, the weaponization of the West's own financial structures against itself. A prime example is the quiet surrender of Australia's Port of Darwin, critical strategic infrastructure leased to a Chinese-linked company. Foreign powers use extractive debt and market reliance to hollow out the nation. In Australia, leveraging deep dependencies within the resources sector ensures the domestic economy is entirely beholden to foreign demand. When the Australian government attempted to implement a tax on mining superprofits, the industry's billionaire class functioned as compromised assets. They deployed vast wealth to launch political campaigns that vetoed sovereign tax reforms, securing profits heavily aligned with foreign interests. The second prong of this economic siege targets the civilian population. The Australian economy has been mutated into a $3 trillion residential mortgage debt bubble. This entirely paralyzes the political class and holds the banking sector hostage to inflated property values. When you combine top-down corporate capture with a society crippled from the bottom up by unpayable housing debt, the result is highly effective. It strips the allied nation of the financial resilience and political sovereignty required to mount any meaningful defense against regional aggression. These geographic fronts are completely intertwined. American political sabotage and allied economic debt spirals are acting simultaneously to form a massive strategic pincer movement. This paralyzing squeeze exhausts the West, clearing the board for a single objective: the unchecked invasion of Taiwan. By demanding Taiwan pay exorbitant sums for its own protection, while simultaneously demonstrating a willingness to abandon established allies, Washington's transactional rhetoric sends a clear signal to Beijing that the United States will not intervene. While the West argues internally, Beijing acts. Since 2022, there has been a sharp, quantifiable escalation of Sino-Russian military exercises encircling the island. This creates a persistent threat designed specifically to bait the U.S. into an unsustainable drain of defense resources. The strategic exhaustion phase is now complete. The Axis has engineered an environment where a kinetic strike on Taiwan will face zero unified resistance from the West. The cumulative pressure of this siege is designed to create a specific window of opportunity. Analysts now observe the CR axis positioning itself to capitalize on American internal chaos, moving the Taiwan timeline forward while Western resistance is paralyzed by internal fractures. The West is losing a global war because we refuse to recognize the weapons in play. Until we realize that a toxic politician and a predatory mortgage are just as deadly as a hypersonic missile, the siege will continue until the collapse is absolute.